there to all you listening to Old Bodies Outside. This is Brian Peterson, and today I am super excited to have Dax Ross on the show. And Dax Ross, he's been working with the San Diego Mountain Rescue Team as a volunteer for over 3 years, and he's got a lot of great experiences with trainings and helping people out in that regard. He also has been volunteering at the San Diego 100 Mile Ultramarathon for a number of years. The second reason that I was really excited to have Dax on the show is his intentional use of outdoor recreation activities to bond with family and friends. And that's something that a lot of research has studied and showing positive effects. And so before I get going with the episode today, I wanted to summarize some of the research that has been found on strengthening of bonds using outdoor recreation activities. And so research shows family and friend outdoor recreation activities can promote positive communication, can promote strengthening of relationships, and can boost relationship satisfaction due to feeling more valued. Furthermore, it is increasingly recognized that interacting with nature promotes well-being and health, but also provides opportunities for emotional and cognitive renewal and relieving the negative physiological effects of various stressors, and helps with developing a stronger sense of self. And so although that was a very dense summary of the research, one of the things that I'm really excited about, as I mentioned earlier, is to see how that is being put to use and practice by Dax and his family and his friends. So Dax, great to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the introduction with you, you've been a part of the San Diego Mountain Rescue Team for 3 years and 3 months, actually. What gave you the itch to get started volunteering with the San Diego Mountain Rescue Team?
I really was into the training of it. I saw the flyer at a rock climbing gym. I was bouldering, and I wanted to get more into, wall climbing, sport climbing, getting outside, and this provided. I looked into the Mountain Rescue Team, and they do provide some training that looked like they spent a lot of time outdoors, and I wanted to help in a way that kind of aligns with my interests. I wanted to volunteer to do something that something outdoors. Initially, I got involved. I was interested in rescue. Were you friends with Ben Horn?
Yes. Yeah. I got to know Ben Horn at the PCT 50 miler back in maybe 2011, 2012. So I got to interact with him then, and I also got to interact with him when Scott Jurek was in San Diego at a running store, and he did a group run, and Ben Horn was there as well. So I got to hang out with Ben those 2 times, and that was it.
Right. So he's such a cool guy. I did some runs with him, and he talked a lot about his climbing. He was supposed to be on a run with us. He went missing in Peru. He was climbing in Peru with his friend. And I have some mutual friends with Ben. And he was going to be on a run with us when they actually, we were doing the 3 peaks, San Jacinto, Baldy, and Gorgonio. And I was running with a bunch of his friends. And this was during the time he was missing. And we actually found out that they had found the body during this run. So the reason I bring up Ben Horn was there was a huge search effort for him. And it looked like, there were some climber friends of him at UCSD, some engineers who developed some really high-tech crowdsource search and rescue things. So that's when I initially became interested in search and rescue, was during Ben's search. And I just thought, wow, if there's something that I can do that might help someone out in a situation like that, then I think it would be a fulfilling thing for me to do.
Yeah, you brought back a lot of memories just now, Dax. And I remember when Ben went missing in Peru, and I didn't know Ben that well, but the technological kind of software that his friends quickly produce. And so we were using live satellite imagery to search the area that we knew which peak he went up. And so we were using satellite imagery. And this is about 10 years ago. We're using satellite imagery to try to find any evidence of where Ben was, footsteps, articles of clothing, or anything. And I even got involved with that. And that was something that was really interesting. So, wow, Dax, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. So that brought back a lot of memories of that situation. And I never knew that was something that also was partly inspiring for you to join San Diego Mountain Rescue Team. But it's also, as you mentioned at the start of your explanation, the trainings that go into the San Diego Mountain Rescue Team just seem like they're so cool. So what types of trainings do you all do with the San Diego Mountain Rescue Team?
Well, the Mountain Rescue Team is a Type 1 team, which means we have to be available and competent at any elevation, any weather, and I think we're expected to be able to be self-sufficient for 3 days in any type of, maybe 3 nights, I can't remember, but so we have to be competent in the mountains, in snow. Even though it's San Diego, we still get called out. As you know, it snows. We get called out to San Jacinto. There are a number of call outs to Mount Baldy. And so it's called a mutual aid search when other counties request our county's team to go and help out in these situations. So we have to be competent with rope rescue techniques, snow, like glacier travel, ice axe arrest, things like that. Also, we have to be competent in navigation. Basically, we do medical. We all have to have a medical certification, wilderness first responder. So basically, every month, we spend a weekend out training somewhere in the wilderness, usually Friday to Sunday. A big one out here is the desert training. So we do a desert training in August to see how we can handle the heat, so we know how much water we need. So that's a fun one. So every month, every weekend, 1 weekend a month, we go out and we practice a different one of these techniques we have to be competent in. Not techniques, but it's the area of study. So January and February is usually snow training. We do hard snow, soft snow. We have to build snow shelters, and we have to stay overnight in the snow shelter. And then we do a lot of technical rock training where we do systems that rescue people that are useful for steep angle or high angle rescue. Not just climbing stuff, but more about going over the edge and picking off a patient or putting a litter over the edge. We do helicopter hoist training. So all of this is to say that I've taken so much from the training. Like, I feel like I've taken more than I've given back. It's been such a great opportunity to learn all these skills, and it's all volunteer. And the people that lead the trainings are just really experts in what they're teaching. People have been doing this for 10, 20 years, and we have engineers on the team. They're just, really smart people that train us. And it's been a great opportunity. And then the longer you stay on the team, the more of a teaching role you take, and then you give back to the new recruits that come in or new members. So that's been fun too.
How long has the longest member been on the San Diego Mountain Rescue Team?
I'm not sure the exact number, but I want to say over 20 years.
Wow. So they got a lot of knowledge, a lot more knowledge than I have. And these things that you've learned, these are things that I do not know how to do. Although I think they're very appealing, like, making the snow shelters or developing these systems to rescue someone when they're on rock and whatnot. It seems like a lot of great opportunities there. I think I've seen also doing some stuff with rappelling out of helicopters. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do. We worked with the LA Sheriff's Department and did a hoist training because a lot of searches in remote areas. First of all, a lot of searches we do are just urban searches. They're not exciting at all. They're valuable. A lot of them are for like an autistic kid that wanders off in an urban environment, or an older person with dementia wanders off. So that's a lot of the searches. Those aren't the exciting, Instagram picture things that people post, but we do have to be ready to be inserted into the wilderness. So like helicopter trainings with LA Sheriff's Department. So like, for example, search in Baldy, they will hoist us up and insert us into a remote location. And it just saves a lot of time, opposed to hiking in somewhere and doing the, spending a day getting to a location to start the search. So that's been fun. We did that it's in the Angeles National Forest. They have a pad out there, like a launch pad, and they just hoisted us up, took us around a circle, hoisted us back down. And we try to do a helicopter training every year. Those guys were cool. Really cool. They do a lot of SWAT operations. So they have I think they have like a headquarters or like a landing area in Compton and one at the top of Angeles National Forest where they hang out. Okay. So it was interesting to see the difference.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of great stuff. I had not thought about the fact that probably there are a lot of, search and rescue. I don't know. Do you guys call them missions? Search and rescue missions in which like they're not the most exciting, but they're definitely helping people out. I not thought
operations,
about that. Yeah. Operations. There you go. One thing I want to ask about those engineers. So are they just engineers in their everyday life, or are they brought on as engineers? Kind of like if you're an engineer on a wildfire crew.
It's funny because there seems to be a couple of careers that search and rescue attracts, and one of them is engineer, and that's just their job. There's engineers and scientists for some reason. I don't know. I understand the engineer, but it's like we have a couple of guys that are like aerospace engineers. It's just the way their brain works. It just makes them great teachers and experts in some of the rope systems. They're not. Mm-hmm. It's not as complicated as aerospace engineering, but for me it's pretty complicated.
It would be for me too. So I want to continue hearing about some of these trainings with what I've seen you all doing out in the Sierra Nevada. I think that was it this past maybe late summer. You went up and did Pulmonium Peak together.
Yeah, so that's probably my favorite training of the year. It's just called mountain climbs, and they're usually smaller groups. So it's not, our team is 50, 60 people. We get at a training, maybe 30 people, 20 people, depending on availability. The July training is in the Sierra, and it's a small group, 4 or 5 people. And it's basically around January, you pick a mountain you want to climb. We pull a bunch of permits for, 4 or 5 different mountain climbs for the month of July. And so you just kind of pick an objective, and then it's kind of the chance to go into the mountain and to put all these skills that you've been training to use. Nice. So yeah, this last July, I actually did 2 mountain climbs with the team. One of them was Sill and Pulmonium. And that was amazing. And the other one was Mount Ritter, the north face of Mount Ritter. And that was great too. So it's just usually a weekend, 2 or 3 days. Have you done Ritter? Have you been out there?
No, but I was actually going to ask you about Ritter. I've been around the base of Ritter a lot. The Sierra High Route goes right by Ritter and Banner. I've been I have scrambled around on Ritter a little bit as part of that. But was Mount Ritter first? Was the first ascent by John Muir?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
that's
read
what
up
I
on
thought.
that. And he talks about there's the route that he took up is the same route we did. I think it's a 3rd, some 4th class climbing. And he writes about hanging on and just like holding on for dear life. It kind of freaked me out reading his account of it. And I can't imagine, these first ascents are crazy because you don't really know, there's no way of reading, you don't know the beta. There's no history here. You're just going up there, and he probably had like wool pants and like, I don't know, definitely not mountaineering boots.
That's right. That's what I was thinking. He didn't have shoes on that have sticky rubber. He probably had shoes on that had wood bottoms, I got to imagine, that are pretty slick, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, climbing that and thinking of, the equipment and the things that have changed as far as preparation and equipment. I can't imagine doing something like, because I'm the kind of guy, I'm going to go read as much as I can about a route. I'll read the books, I'll read Mountain Project. I'll have the app, I'll have CalTopo or SARTopo, and I'll have the line drawn so I know I'm staying on route. I'm doing as much as I can to as much beta as I can, and I can't imagine doing like first ascent without knowing anything.
Yeah, that, and Mount Ritter, and today you have access to Red's Meadow. If something were to happen, Red's Meadow is maybe 5 or 6 miles away.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so, if an emergency did happen, at least you can, if you broke an ankle, you can hike out to Red's Meadow. John Muir doing this, probably in the late 1800s or so. I don't know if Red's Meadow, if an emergency happened, he's pretty far in there by himself. So I couldn't imagine doing it either. It's pretty wild. But those peaks that you mentioned for your trainings, Sill, Pulmonium, Ritter, those are all 14ers. Am I correct?
I'm not sure. I don't think Ritter's a 14er is close, but Sill and Pulmonium are. They're in part of that. There's a Thunderbolt to Sill Traverse. That is that's my objective this year if all goes well. And that's 5 14ers on a ridge. And I think it's only about like a mile on the ridge, and you can summit these 5 peaks all in one go.
Wow,
and that's kind of one of the classic Sierra climbs. It's really, really hard as far as route finding and altitude adjustment and all of that. But it's something that has been on my list for a while, and that's what I'm hoping to do this year, this July.
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. So when you all are doing these trainings, how technical are you all getting on these routes? I mean, are they like 510s? Are you going beyond that? How technical are they?
They're not. The ones I've done have been 4th class, a few 5th class portions where the leader will rope up, and we'll all rope up, and someone will lead sections of the route, place protection into the rock, and then belay the followers up. We did that on some of Pulmonium. A couple of people in the group were roped in, and then I roped in descending Pulmonium. And they say that's a 4th class route, but it's 4th class with a lot of exposure, a lot of risk. 4th class, like you slip or something and you're falling, basically you're falling to your death. So just to play it safe, even on that 4th class stuff, it's not super technical. It's like, huge holds, good feet. But some of that you feel more comfortable roped in just because it's such high risk. We haven't done anything. Members of the team go out and do more technical climbs like 5.7, 5.8. We were talking about doing the Swiss Arrête on Mount Sill this year, but the group was just kind of we didn't have enough time, and we wanted to hit Sill and Pulmonium, so we didn't do that route. I think that's a 5.7. I don't think we'd ever do anything more than like a 5.10 in the Sierras. But the way the Sierra is rated is like, you're doing a 5.7 and it's old school ratings. Like a 5.7 is pretty solid. It's not your climbing gym 5.7 ladder. it can be pretty tough.
Yeah, and the Sierra definitely has that reputation. Outside, have you ever done? And I don't know if you would have done this for the San Diego Mountain Rescue Team, but have you ever gone over to through Bridgeway to Twin Lakes and done Matterhorn Peak?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'm looking to do that one this summer as part of an off-trail backpacking route. Matterhorn Peak.
Is that from the east?
I'd say it's more central. I would say it's more central Sierra. Let me see here. I'm looking at a map, and I mean, I guess it's still east. It's about the same. Yeah, it's East Sierra. It is. It's just further north. It's north of Mono Lake or Mono Lake, however you like to pronounce it.
Okay.
But it's up in the Hoover Wilderness. Does that kind of help at all?
Not really. I'm pretty bad with names. I do these climbs. People ask me where what the trailhead was, and I can't remember, because everything kind of there's always a lake, like North Lake, or and
yeah.
I'm bad with recall.
Let's see if I can do it. Yeah, let's see if I can pull a map up here. Let's try that out. Okay, so all right, so let's just zoom out to get some relativity here. Okay, so you got 395 right here, so that's always a good marker. Mono Lake, and then you got Bridgeport right here. And from Bridgeport, you can drive this road into Twin Lakes, and there's a trailhead right there. You can see there's a lot of activity right there, but Matterhorn Peak is right here. So you got to hike south right here from Twin Lakes over to Matterhorn Peak. And did you ever read Dharma Bums by Jack Kerouac?
Yeah. It's been a while,
so
though.
I
don't remember it well.
Yeah, so and I reread it recently, and this is part of what's inspiring me to go up to Matterhorn Peak. You have Jack Kerouac climbs at Matterhorn Peak at the start of that with Gary Snyder, and they go up Matterhorn Peak. And so I'm going to do a route. I'm looking to do it next summer. Where I do a big loop like this and come back to Twin Lakes, and I'll come up and over Matterhorn Peak and then kind of descend down to the trail there. But so far I haven't looked into any beta about that. So that's why I asked you. I was like, well, maybe Dax knows something about that, but it is further north to get to. And I know that there's so much to do on the southern eastern Sierra that, you can spend your whole lifetime exploring that area.
Yeah. Do you have Secor's book, Peaks Passes?
Yes. That
one.
One's really helpful. I haven't looked. You're right. That one is that Seeker's book. He is just an expert on every little detail and facet and place in the Sierra. And so, I need to look in there for Matterhorn Peak, and that'll probably be an early August trip of 2023. But nice. Absolutely. That's the place to look. Yeah.
Oh, side note.
So
Brian,
on top,
are you pacing Paul at Hard Rock this year?
Yeah, I sure am.
Nice.
You going to be there?
Yeah, I'm not going to be there. I
not.
messaged him when he got in. I'm like, do you need a pacer for 1 to 2 miles? And he just laughed at me.
Funny. Yeah, he asked me to pace some, and I am absolutely in. I'm super excited for Paul. It's been quite a journey for him to get into Hard Rock. He's been trying forever. And so I know I texted him when he first got his name pulled in the lottery, and he said that he kind of teared up a little bit because he was so happy that he got into Hard Rock. So I'll be out there in July, and right now I'm trying to figure out what 100-mile race I'm going to do this summer. I need to do a qualifier for Hard Rock too. And so I'm going to put my name in. There's that newer 100-mile race that's in the Buena Vista area of Colorado called High Lonesome West. And I'm going to put my name in for that lottery. That lottery is open from, I believe, January 2nd to about January 11th. It's just this small gap. And then on January 13th, they pull the names. And I've heard it's pretty tough to get into that race. So I'm going to put my name in for that lottery. if I don't get into that lottery, I'm either going to do Run Rabbit Run out of Steamboat Springs in Colorado or Mogollon Monster in Arizona. Mogollon really calls me a lot, but Run Rabbit Run is within driving distance of Kansas, where I guess anything is within driving distance. Mogollon Monster is within driving distance, but it would be a 2-day drive, whereas Run Rabbit Run is about 8.5, 9-hour drive, and I can just do that in one day. So I'll end up probably doing that race.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
Transferring away from the San Diego Mountain Rescue Team, and that was a great conversation hearing about how that works and whatnot. I also want to hear about when I think of Dax, I think of someone who just loves outdoor recreation activities, but you've done so much with outdoor recreation activities. You've done a lot of volunteering at the San Diego 100. You once started a trail marathon that got too big to handle, and I don't know what happened to it. I think it just got too big. I believe you've started a running club, and you also do just a lot of great stuff with your family. I know you and Beckett did the Mountaineers route recently, I think this past summer, up Mount Whitney. And so what got you first identifying that going out and doing these outdoor recreation activities is just a fantastic way to bond with your family members and friends. And then also, all the great health benefits, mental and physical, that come with being out in nature. When did you first start realizing that was such a strong factor and also just a big piece of your relationships?
It started when for me, it was when I first started kind of exercising. I wasn't a very active adult. I ran in high school, but then I didn't really run or do anything until I was probably about early 30s, 2005.
Wow.
And for me, it was like, I want to do this stuff. And I found that it was better and easier for me to do it if I had people I was doing it with. So yeah, I mean, the social aspect is kind of a selfish thing. Like I started with triathlon, and these long training rides are so boring. But if you're riding with someone else and you can just talk and just BS, and it makes it go a lot faster. And then it became like I started making these friends. It seemed like all my friends were, and I think it's something, especially about running. Like when you run with someone and you share, there's a lot of not so good times when you're running. It's a tough sport, but when you're sharing that with someone else, and a lot of stuff comes up. I think a lot of people say that exercise is therapy, and I think we all have some level of anxiety, depression. I've talked to you about like racing and stuff and how there's anxiety there. I think we all have a little bit of that, and I think the bonds that I've made through running and being outdoors with people, I've just been able to open up to those people, like training partners, in a way that I haven't with real therapists, let's call them. I don't know what it is. It's just something that when you're sharing that just the suffering. We were talking about Paul Jesse earlier, and I've had just deep conversations with a lot of these people. Paul and I did John Muir Trail together, and you're out there so far away from civilization and like the stress of everything. Something just clicks, and you just create these bonds with people that they're unlike any other, except for family. It's like unlike any other friendships I've had. I feel like they're very special, and I appreciate those. So that made me want to share that with more people. You mentioned the marathon that got too big because the little trails around here. It was a illegal trail race, no permits, no insurance. I'm lucky that nothing terribly bad happened. We did have some falls and some teeth knocked out, but luckily I didn't get sued or anything.
Oh, that's right.
So the Rangers came down because that did become too big. If I look back on pictures of that, and those are like all my best friends. being
Yeah.
able to share that with my best friends. I met you through running. I remember,
Yeah.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I met you at the first Cuyamaca 100K.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay? So I'm like, this guy's wearing really short shorts. He's going to win the race because I feel like serious runners, the shorter the shorts are, the more serious they are. So I'm like, I gotta say hi to this guy.
There's a really
Not just because you look good in short shorts, although you did.
yes. Yeah, not so much anymore. I don't know about ever actually, but I like that though. There's a relationship in the seriousness that you take your running and the shortness of your shorts. And I got to say, I think I was a fan of those 3-inch shorts for a long time, and I'm down to about 7-inch shorts now. So
yeah, no, I'm wearing capris now. Like I'm wearing I'm running in pants. That's how unserious I am.
Oh, that's great though. And one of the things I mentioned earlier too is I love that you have opened up a lot of opportunities to the public too. Even if, it's a race that you put on yourself and something that was more so just meant to be a neighborhood. I think it was a 4th of July event, right? Where it's just kind of meant at first to bring some people together around the 4th of July, do something healthy for a little bit before all the eating and drinking. And yep. I was there that year where I think it was a lady, she just caught her toe, and it's just one of those things that happens. It could happen to any of us. Caught her toe and face planted. She sprung herself forward and face planted right onto a rock, and it was pretty bad. And so was that pretty much the moment right there where it's like, this is, insurance might be a good thing, or maybe I should stop doing that?
Yeah, that scared me. I knew Melissa, she's a friend, and she was so awesome. And she was like, she wanted to keep going. Like, I was like, nah, you need to take care of this. I think she maybe broke her finger too. She was like one of the toughest people I know. But yeah, that was kind of a reality check where it's like, this is expanded beyond just a handful of really close friends that won't sue me. And then I also used to do the New Year's Day run. And I think you were there for 1 or 2 of those maybe. And that was just too big for the trails to handle. And I would get the rangers. It became really big one year where, I invited people, then it just grew, and like other people invited people. And so I think there were like 100 people out there in Elephant Forest. And then subsequent years, rangers would call me like the week before the race or before the run. They're like, you're not doing this year, right? You're not doing this. We'll be out there. You can't do it. I'm like, I promise I'm not. I'll be out there with my family, but that's it. What I loved, go ahead.
I was going to say, family can constitute a lot of people.
It can. Yeah, the running family is big.
That's right. Well, they definitely seem to know who you are and whatnot. Now, another event, and I don't know if you kept this one going too, was your vertical beer mile. And recently a video of that resurfaced 10 years later. And I remember I did that one year, and I think that resulted in a 2-day hangover. It took 48 hours to wash myself away, get all that toxins out of my body. Have you done any more trail beer miles, vertical beer miles since then?
Yes. So I'm not organizing these anymore. I've kind of handed that off. I have, we have a kind of a new generation of runners in San Alejo, and these guys are like, it's so cool to see because some of these guys are like really fast, great runners, and they're so inclusive and welcoming of everyone, which that's always what I've tried to do. I think running can be an inclusive sport, and it's boring if it's just like old white guys like me. So these guys they took the reins, and they put on 2 beer miles on the trail, not vertical. I just wrote about that actually because what a stupid idea that was. Like a vertical beer mile to go up and then come down after 4 beers on a kind of a technical trail.
Right.
There's a picture of you with your shirt over your head in that video. So yeah, that was a one-time thing. But we do a trail beer mile that's flat, and that's a great time. But twice a year is enough. That's like, it ruins your day, probably ruins the next day, but super fun when it's happening.
Yeah. And I definitely know what you're talking about with running downhill with my shirt over my face, and luckily not catching a toe and face planting.
Right.
That would have been good. So and what about so this is like a lot of great stuff that you've done with the local area, with your friends, with your family, and also, just expanding and rippling out from there. What about with your family though? It seems like when you travel with your family, you go to all these different national parks. You recently went to Joshua Tree National Park with your wife. I think you were at Acadia National Park not too long ago. And it seems that you always find a way to weave in some hikes or some runs or some rock climbing with your son and daughters. Is that an intentional thing, or is that just something the family just loves to do?
It's definitely intentional, and I'm sneaky like that. I really, it's selfishness for me. I love doing this stuff. I love climbing, hiking, surfing, like all that stuff. And I try to find a balance of forcing it too much on my family. But I'll try to weave it into any vacations we take or any trips we take. Luckily, like my son and my wife have both really come to love rock climbing, so it's not a hard sell for them. And my oldest daughter is funny because I feel like I pushed her. I made the mistake of pushing her too far or too hard when she was younger. Because I just loved running so much. I'm like, my kids are going to love running. They're going to be great runners. So I kind of made that mistake with her, just pushing it to the point where she hated it. I mean, she ran cross country in high school, but she had the same issues that I did in high school, where just the anxiety would hit me before a race. So I think you have to find that line with family of pushing that on them or backing off a little bit and just saying, hey, my wife and I just went to Palm Springs. Like, she wanted to go climbing, but if the family was some of these family trips, like let's do something, let's go to the spa or the pool for a day. And then maybe the next day we'll find a good trail. And my family knows that, that actually it's good for them too, because if I don't do something like that, and if I'm cooped up, I'm not I'm a much friendlier person if I am doing something, if I'm incorporating something in the outside, something outdoors in a trip. If I'm cooped up all day, or if I'm doing like a normal tourist thing with a big crowd of people, it's not good for them. It's not good for me. I have some issues with that. I need my outdoor therapy.
Absolutely. And, as I've gotten older and gotten into my 40s, when I was younger, I always wanted to just push for these really hardcore adventures and go find like some really steep, rocky terrain to be on and whatnot. But one of the things that I actually really love a lot about our guys trip that we do annually is we don't push to go too hardcore. Actually, I find that I end up having more conversations that way, because when it gets into being really tricky terrain and whatnot, like sometimes people can get spread out, and like you do bond over that adventure without a doubt. But I actually have really come to enjoy just doing adventures where I can, hey, if it means walking for a couple miles to catch up with someone and just kind of focus on nature and catch up with each other and focus on each other. Like, I've come to really love that a lot. And that's something that I love a lot about our guys trip is we don't push for going hardcore. We actually push for these kind of achievable, fun little adventures that everyone can do. They're inclusive of everyone, regardless if you've ever been mountain biking before, or if you're a good runner or whatnot. And I think that that's something that is a lot of fun. And it's something that, as I've gotten older too, I don't focus, as I mentioned, on those hardcore runs. And I see that when I offer up to try to do something outdoorsy with my new family, wife and stepkids. It's something that's a lot more achievable. And a lot of times it can just be, let's go for a 2-mile walk at the local park and we end up having a great time. We'll bring a football and throw it around. And I sometimes forget I don't have to go and do this hardcore thing, but I can also do a very simple and achievable outdoor recreation activity. And there's one thing earlier, Dex, that you brought up with running. And running, I get a lot of anxiety from running too. And I remember growing up as a kid, I played a lot of soccer. I played on the travel soccer team, very competitive soccer, and I did a lot of running. Yet I would never get nervous and anxious at the start of soccer games, but for every single race, I get nervous and anxious, and racing can be tough on that anxiety without a doubt. But the other day I heard something that I thought was really, really cool and just a great inclusive statement that for running. And this person said that, hey, if you go running once, you are a runner. You are a runner just like everyone else, regardless of how far you go, what pace you go, how often you go. If you go running, you're a runner. And I think that, sometimes people think of running, and especially since we talk about ultra running a lot, like you got to be doing those long, hard distances. But I love the inclusivity of that statement of, hey, if you go running, well, you're a runner. I think that's awesome.
100%. I agree with that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. All right. So Dax, as we're finishing up here, I wanted to go over this dense research statement that I said earlier, in which was research shows family and friend outdoor recreation activities can promote positive communication. And I think that's definitely checked. That box is checked. And I think you've seen that before, promoting positive communication. And that would be, probably when you're out in nature, you're at ease, you're disconnected, and that helps with positive communication. It can also promote strengthening of relationships. I think there's a lot of ways that outdoor recreation activities can strengthen relationships. Sense of accomplishment, sense of just doing something together, spending extra time together in a disconnected way. I think that's something that we've both seen a lot. And outdoor recreation activities can boost relationship satisfaction due to feeling more valued. And I think with that, one thing that's really excellent is when, say, you and I are out on our guys trip and, we are riding mountain bikes next to each other and we're catching up to each other and we're chit chatting and whatnot. Well, yeah, I'm going to feel more valued in that friendship because we got to catch up. And I think that that's the same for family relationships as well. So that research makes sense to me. Continuing on, furthermore, it is increasingly recognized that interacting with nature promotes well-being and health, which we're both very well aware of. And I think that there's a big mental component to that. There's a lot of research out there that shows ways that nature helps decrease anxiety, decrease stress, all kinds of stuff of just being out in nature. So that's definitely a great piece of research. Outdoor recreation also nature also provides opportunities for emotional and cognitive renewal and relieving the negative physiological effects of various stressors, which I think I just kind of talked about, and helps with developing a stronger sense of self. And so that last part's actually more so a personal one on a one-to-one basis. And I know for me, just getting out, kind of what you were mentioning earlier, getting out and being able to spend some time outside, whether it's with people or by myself, I tend to then take the rest of the day at better stride. And so if I got to go out to the mall and go shopping, all those big crowds aren't something that I really look forward to. But if I have that run in the morning or a mountain bike ride in the morning or hike in the morning, I go out to a crowded place like that, like I probably feel a little bit more connected with myself for the day. So I think that research lines up pretty nicely.
Yeah.
Okay, Dax. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. For our next guys trip, we're going to be out in Bend, Oregon. I'm really excited to get back to some mountain biking with y'all, and hopefully we can find some scramble routes out there, or at least some bouldering that we can do. So I'm really excited for that. So hey, thanks again. Yeah, it's going to be cool. And I've never been to Bend. Have you been to Bend?
No, it's my first time.
Okay, great. That's great. Yeah, we're going to have a fantastic time. All right, Dax, thanks again. I'm going to throw on the outro music and we'll call it an episode.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate it. Miss you, man.
You're welcome. Yeah, I miss you too.